Jake Sullivan had always been a man of quiet ambitions. He wasn't a hero or a leader. He was just a negotiator, someone who solved problems in small, unassuming ways. That was until the message came. It had been a regular Tuesday morning, just like any other when Jake sat down at his desk to check the messages on his tablet. A bright, blinking icon caught his attention. The sender was unknown, and the subject line was even more puzzling. Invitation to Vralius. He opened it, his curiosity piqued. The message was brief, almost formal. You are invited to the planet Vralius for diplomatic discussions. We have a special interest in your skills. A detailed itinerary will follow. Your arrival is expected within 1 week. Prime Consul Alara of Vralius. At first, Jake thought it might be some sort of prank or a scam, but there was something about it that felt genuine. The name, Vralius, sounded vaguely familiar, like something from a science fiction novel or a documentary he had once seen. He didn't know much about alien races, but the Vralans were known to be among the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy. It wasn't uncommon for powerful species to reach out to Earth for one reason or another, but why him? Jake spent the next few hours wondering whether he should delete the message and go on with his life or investigate further. His colleagues would probably laugh at the idea, an invitation from an alien species. It seemed impossible. But Jake was a professional, one who knew how to read between the lines of international politics. If this was real, it could be an incredible opportunity. The chance to meet beings from another world, to be involved in something bigger than Earth itself. The more he thought about it, the more he realized he couldn't ignore it. So, without telling anyone, Jake confirmed his attendance. Within hours, he received a follow-up message, this time with more details. A sleek, advanced spacecraft would arrive at a designated spaceport in 3 days to take him to Vralius. The instructions were simple. Be ready. The night before his departure. Jake couldn't sleep. He had been in tense negotiations before, but this was different. This wasn't just a meeting with another government, it was a chance to meet beings from another world. He had read all the reports about the Vralans and their advanced technologies. Teport by a sleek, black vehicle. His heart raced as he boarded the spacecraft, a marvel of engineering that gleamed in the sunlight. The interior was luxurious, with smooth, polished surfaces and soft lighting. The atmosphere inside was calm and serene, yet there was a strange energy in the air. It was as if everything was perfectly arranged for something grand to happen. He sat in one of the comfortable seats, staring out the window as Earth slowly receded behind him. For the first time, he felt a deep sense of isolation, floating away from everything he had known. The ship's engines hummed softly, and the stars outside the window seemed to dance as they sped through the void of space. Hours passed, though Jake wasn't sure how many. Time seemed to stretch and blur in the quiet space. Eventually, a calm voice came over the intercom. We are approaching Vralius. Please prepare for landing. Jake looked out the window again, his breath catching in his throat. A planet came into view, unlike any he had ever seen before. It was a swirling mass of vibrant colors, deep blues, greens, and purples, like an artist's palette splashed across the vastness of space. The atmosphere shimmered, and the surface seemed to pulse with life. He had never seen anything like it. This was not just a new world, it was a living, breathing entity. As the ship descended, the atmosphere inside the cabin became charged with a sense of purpose. The engines shifted as they made their final approach. Jake's heart thudded in his chest. He had no idea what was waiting for him on this alien world, but he knew this would be a journey that would change him forever. The ship touched down with a soft jolt, and the doors opened. A ramp extended down, leading him into the heart of a vast city that stretched across the horizon. The structures were tall, elegant, and organic in design, as if they had grown from the planet itself. The air was filled with the sounds of strange birds and the rustling of what seemed like alien plants. It smelled fresh and alive, unlike anything he had ever encountered before. Waiting at the foot of the ramp was a figure, a woman. She was tall, with striking features that seemed almost too perfect to be real. Her eyes were an intense shade of violet, and her skin shimmered with an otherworldly glow. Her presence was commanding, and yet there was a calmness to her demeanor that put Jake at ease. "I am Commander Elira," she said with a voice that was both gentle and firm. "Welcome to Vralius, Mr. Sullivan. Prime Consul Alara is eager to meet you." Jake nodded, still feeling the weight of the moment. He had been invited to a new world, but he didn't yet understand why. All he could do was follow Elira, trusting that he was about to step into an entirely different reality, one where everything he thought he knew would be tested. Jake followed Commander Elira through the bustling streets of the Viralian city. Every corner he turned revealed something more extraordinary than the last. The buildings around him seemed alive, twisting and growing, with walls made of organic material that shimmered in the light. The streets were filled with Vralans, tall, elegant beings with smooth skin and piercing eyes. Their movements were graceful, almost like they were floating rather than walking. He couldn't help but feel out of place, a small human among these towering superior beings. Elira led him to a towering structure in the center of the city, its spires reaching into the sky. It was a palace, but unlike anything Jake had seen before. The architecture seemed to breathe as though the very walls were alive. Vralius was a planet of contrasts. Its beauty was breathtaking, but there was an underlying sense of something ancient, something powerful, just beneath the surface. As they entered the palace, Jake was greeted by an overwhelming sense of serenity. The air was thick with the scent of flowers and strange spices, and the atmosphere seemed charged with energy. Elira led him down a long, winding corridor to a large chamber where a woman waited. She was tall. Regson could they possibly have for inviting him, a simple human diplomat, to their planet? He had worked on Earth's most complex negotiations, but nothing had prepared him for this. He was out of his depth, and he couldn't shake the feeling that there was something more to this visit than just a diplomatic mission. The room they were in was spacious, with walls covered in intricate patterns that seemed to change as the light shifted. There were strange artifacts and pieces of art scattered throughout, some of which Jake didn't recognize. The designs were beautiful, but they gave off an eerie sense of age, as if they had been collected over millennia. "Please," Elira said, motioning toward a seat. "Sit with me. There is much we need to discuss." Jake sat, still trying to process everything around him. Elira took a seat opposite him, her eyes never leaving his face. There was something captivating about her, something he couldn't quite place. It wasn't just her beauty. It was the way she carried herself, the way she seemed to possess an ancient wisdom. He had met powerful leaders before, but none had left him feeling so small, so insignificant. "I'm sure you have many questions," Elira said, breaking the silence. "You wonder why you are here, why we chose you." Jake nodded, relieved that she was addressing the elephant in the room. "Yes, I do," he said, his voice steady but filled with uncertainty. "I don't understand why a human diplomat would be needed on Vralius. What is it that you want from me?" Elira's expression softened, and she leaned forward slightly. "The truth, Mr. Sullivan, is that we are facing a crisis. Our race is dying. We cannot reproduce without outside intervention, and our numbers grow, fewer with each passing generation. Our women are intelligent, powerful, but we cannot grow our people any longer." Jake blinked, surprised by the bluntness of her statement. He had heard rumors of the Vralans' struggles, but he never expected them to be so open about it. "I'm sorry to hear that," he said quietly. "But what does that have to do with me?" Elira's gaze never wavered. "We need you, Mr. Sullivan. Or rather, we need something your people possess, something that we have long been fascinated by. The strength of humanity, your adaptability, your ability to survive, to grow. Our species is facing extinction, and we believe that your genetics hold the key to our survival. Jake stared at her, trying to process her words. Are you saying you want to combine our species? Alara nodded, her eyes gleaming with an intensity that sent a shiver down Jake's spine. Yes. We believe that through a union of human and Vralian genetics, we can create a new future, one where our people can thrive again. But we need a representative of humanity, someone whose genetic makeup can carry our future, and we have chosen you. Jake's mind was spinning. This wasn't a diplomatic mission. It was a desperate plea for survival. The Vralans wanted him, to father a new generation of their people. It was almost too much to comprehend. Why me? He asked, his voice barely a whisper. Why did you choose me of all people? Alara's expression softened, almost as if she were considering his question carefully. Because you are different. You are human. But you also possess the qualities we have been searching for. Your resilience, your determination. You have the strength to lead us into a new era. Jake felt a knot form in his stomach. This was more than just an invitation. It was a demand, wrapped in the form of a choice. And the weight of that choice was heavier than anything he had ever faced before. Alara leaned back in her seat, her eyes never leaving his. Take your time, Mr. Sullivan. You are here for a reason. And when you are ready, we will discuss the future of both our peoples. Jake didn't know what to say. All he could do was nod, still trying to come to terms with the overwhelming situation he found himself in. He had thought he was here for diplomatic talks, but now it seemed that the future of an entire species rested in his hands. Jake sat silently, processing Alara's words. His mind was racing, trying to understand the enormity of what she had just told him. The Vralans, a race so advanced, so powerful, were on the verge of extinction. They were asking him for help, but not in the way he had ever expected. It was overwhelming. Alara's gaze was unwavering, as though she had been prepared for Jake's shock. I know this is difficult to understand, Mr. Sullivan, she said softly, but we have studied humanity for centuries. We have observed your adaptability, your ability to survive in the harshest of environments, and your drive to build and grow. These qualities are what we need. You are the key to our survival. Jake opened his mouth to speak, but no words came out. How could he even respond to something so unreal? A species, an entire civilization, was asking him to father their future. He was a diplomat, not a savior. He had never signed up for something like this. Why me? Jake managed to say finally. Why not someone else? I'm just a negotiator. I don't have any special qualities that make me unique. Alara smiled, though it was a smile filled with sadness. You misunderstand. It is not about being special. It is about what you represent. The strength of humanity, the resilience, the determination, the ability to overcome any obstacle. We believe that by merging our genetics with yours, we can create a future for both our species. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. He had been invited to this alien world under the pretense of diplomacy, but it was now clear that his role was far more complicated than he had ever imagined. He was being asked to give up his own identity, to be part of something much bigger than himself, something he wasn't sure he was ready for. I don't know if I can do this, Jake said quietly. This is beyond anything I've ever known. I came here thinking I would be helping with some political discussions, not this. Alara's eyes softened. I understand your hesitation. You were brought here for a reason, Mr. Sullivan. But I do not ask this of you lightly. We are offering you the chance to be part of something that could save both our worlds. The Vralans are facing extinction. Our race is dying, but you and your people, humans, have the potential to save us. Jake ran a hand through his hair, trying to make sense of the situation. He had always considered himself a man of reason, someone who made decisions based on logic and careful thought. But this wasn't logical. This was emotional, overwhelming, and completely outside his realm of understanding. How can you be sure this will even work? Jake asked, looking at Alara with a mixture of skepticism and confusion. How can you be certain that our genetics will do whatever it is you think they will? We are certain, Alara replied, her voice calm and steady. We have studied your species extensively. We have studied your biology, your resilience, your survival mechanisms. Our scientists believe that through a union of our races, we can combine the best of both. Our intelligence, our technology, and your strength, adaptability, and drive. Jake's mind was spinning. He thought back to the stories he had heard about other alien species, advanced, powerful beings who often saw humanity as inferior, something to be used or discarded. But the Vralans weren't like that. They didn't want to dominate or control. They were asking for help, for a partnership, to survive. Why didn't you just ask someone else? Jake asked, his voice low. Why me? Alara's eyes glinted with something that almost seemed like understanding. We didn't choose you at random. We chose you because of who you are. You are a leader, a man who understands the importance of unity, who understands that sometimes survival means making difficult choices. You are capable of seeing the bigger picture. You are the one who can help guide our people through this crisis. Understand this, Mr. Sullivan. Time is not on our side. We are running out of it. Our future depends on the choices we make now. Jake walked slowly to the large window that overlooked the city, staring out at the alien world beyond. It was beautiful, unlike anything he had ever seen before. But it was also a reminder of the stakes, a reminder that the Vralans were running out of time. For the first time in his life, Jake felt completely out of control. He had always been able to make decisions, to solve problems. But this was beyond him. He didn't know what the right choice was. All he knew was that the future of an entire race, an entire planet, was in his hands. And that was a responsibility he wasn't sure he could bear. Jake couldn't shake the feeling of being trapped. The weight of Alara's words still lingered in his mind, heavy and unyielding. He had spent the past few days walking through the alien city, speaking with the Vralian leaders, but no matter how much he tried to focus on the beauty of this world, his thoughts kept drifting back to the impossible decision that lay before him. The idea that his choice could save a species was both humbling and terrifying. He had always been someone who could negotiate peace between nations, who could solve disputes with words. But this was different. This wasn't about words. It was about biology. It was about his very existence being the key to the survival of an entire race. Jake spent long hours alone in his quarters, pacing back and forth. The Vralans were patient, giving him space, but he knew they were watching him. Every step he took, every moment he hesitated, was under scrutiny. The pressure was building, and he wasn't sure how much longer he could hold out. Alara, the commander who had first greeted him, had become a quiet but constant presence in his life over the past few days. She was always there, watching from a distance, yet somehow offering comfort without saying a word. Her presence felt familiar, almost like a friend, though Jake wasn't sure if that was by design or simply the result of him feeling so lost in this strange place. On the fourth day, Alara came to his quarters unannounced. She knocked softly. Before entering, her expression unreadable. "How are you feeling?" she asked, her voice gentle but firm. Jake ran a hand through his hair. "I'm not sure how I'm supposed to feel. I keep thinking about it over and over again, and it doesn't make sense. I'm not a hero. I'm just a guy who's good with words. This is beyond anything I ever thought I would be part of. Elira stepped forward, her eyes studying him. I understand. This is a difficult decision. You were not brought here for something simple, but you are the one we chose. The future of both our species rests on your choice, Mr. Sullivan. You have the power to change everything. The words stung. He didn't feel powerful. He felt small, insignificant in the face of such a monumental decision. How could he possibly be the one to save a race of beings who had been around for millennia? How could his genetic makeup, his very blood, be the key to their future? You keep saying we chose you. Jake's voice was low, almost a whisper. But what if I don't want this? What if I don't think I'm the right person for this? I didn't ask for any of this. Elira looked at him, her expression softening. You are here because you have what we need, what we lack. It's not just about reproduction, Jake. It's about a bond, a connection. Humanity has something we do not. You possess the strength to lead us into a new age. Jake shook his head, his mind still reeling. But what about Earth? What does it mean for my people, for the future of my world? I can't just make this decision without knowing the consequences. I don't know what this will do to humanity. To us. Elira's eyes softened with understanding, and for a moment, Jake saw something he hadn't noticed before, a hint of vulnerability in her gaze. I know this is hard, but think of it this way. Earth's future is already tied to ours. We have watched your planet for centuries. We know your strengths, your potential. We are not asking you to choose between us and your world. We are asking you to create something new, something that could change the course of both our species. Jake's mind swirled with possibilities, but he could barely make sense of any of them. He thought of his life on Earth, of the people he loved, of the world he called home. Could he really choose to leave all of that behind? Could he really be the one to bridge the gap between humanity and the Vralans? Was he even capable of making that kind of choice? I just need more time, Jake said, his voice almost pleading. I need to understand everything. I can't just act on impulse. This is too big, too important. Elira nodded slowly, as if she had expected him to say that. Take all the time you need, she said. But know this. Time is not something we have in abundance. We are running out of it. Our race is dying, and we need your help. If you wait too long, it may be too late. Her words were like a cold splash of water on his face, a reminder of the urgency of the situation. He had been putting off the decision, hoping that somehow some miracle would present itself, but Elira's were. Dee's made it clear. There was no time for miracles. There was only the hard truth. Jake stared out the window of his quarters, watching as the twin moons of Vralius hung in the sky, casting a soft, silvery light over the city below. The world. Outside was beautiful, but it was also alien, unfamiliar. He felt like an intruder in a place that wasn't meant for him. Elira's voice broke the silence again. You don't have to make this decision alone. We are here for you. We will guide you every step of the way. He turned to face her, still unsure of what to do, but feeling the weight of her words. He had never been one to shy away from a challenge, but this was unlike anything he had ever faced. He was being asked to choose between his own future and the future of a species he had never met, a species that might never survive without his help. In that moment, Jake realized that he couldn't ignore the truth any longer. The Vralans were not just asking for his help, they were depending on him. He had to decide. He couldn't run from this. I'll help you, he said, his voice steady but filled with uncertainty. I don't know how or what this will mean, but I'll help, for you and for your people. Elira's expression softened, and for the first time, Jake saw a flicker of hope in her eyes. Thank you, Mr. Sullivan, she said. "You've made the right choice." Jake didn't know if it was the right choice, but he knew one thing for certain: he couldn't go back. He was in this now, whether he was ready or not, and the path ahead was one he would have to walk alone. Jake stood at the edge of the grand balcony, overlooking the alien city of Vralius. The view was unlike anything he had ever seen: towering spires that gleamed under the twin moons, streets filled with alien life, and buildings that seemed to breathe with the pulse of the planet itself. It was a world full of beauty, yet Jake felt more lost than ever. The decision had been made. He had agreed to help the Vralans, to become part of their future. But with each passing hour, he began to feel the weight of that choice more and more. The responsibility felt crushing. How could a single man, a human diplomat with no training in genetics or alien biology, be the one to save an entire race? Elira had left him alone for the time being, giving him space to think, but Jake couldn't stop the doubts that plagued him. Was he truly the right person for this? The Vralans had chosen him because of his strength, his humanity. But the more he learned about their culture, the more he saw how much was at stake. Their race, their entire civilization depended on him. And that was a pressure he wasn't sure he could bear. He had spent the last few days meeting with more Vralian leaders, scientists, diplomats, historians. Each one seemed eager to speak with him, to explain the intricacies of their plan. But no matter how much information they shared, Jake couldn't shake the nagging feeling that he was in over his head. Every word they spoke about their races, decline, about their desperate need for his help, only added to his uncertainty. As he stood there, gazing out at the distant horizon, he heard footsteps behind him. Turning, he saw Alara approaching. Her presence was commanding, but there was something different about her today. Something softer, almost vulnerable in the way she looked at him. "I see you've been thinking," she said, her voice calm but filled with an unspoken understanding. Jake didn't respond at first. He simply nodded, his gaze still fixed on the city below. "I don't know if I can do this, Alara. I keep thinking about it, about what it means for me, for Earth. This is a lot bigger than I ever imagined." Alara stepped closer, her eyes never leaving his face. "I know it is. But you must understand. Mr. Sullivan, we did not choose you lightly. You represent something we need, something we cannot find within our own people. Your adaptability, your resilience, it is a strength we have watched and studied for centuries." Jake swallowed hard. "I'm not sure that strength is enough. I'm just one man. What if I fail? What if everything we're trying to do just doesn't work?" Alara's expression softened. She placed a hand on the railing beside him, her fingers brushing against his. "You won't fail, Jake. You've already shown more courage than most. The fact that you are here, making the choice to help us, proves you have the strength we need." Jake turned his head to look at her, his eyes filled with uncertainty. "But this isn't just about me. What about Earth? What will happen to my world if I go through with this? What will it mean for my people?" Alara's gaze grew distant for a moment, as though she were considering the question deeply. "Your world, your people, they will be forever changed by this decision. But it is not just about what you can give us. It is about what we can give each other. A future that combines the best of both our species." Jake shook his head, unable to shake the fear that gripped his heart. "I'm not sure I can accept that. I don't even know if my people will agree to this. If this gets out, if the truth comes to light, what will they think? Will they see it as an opportunity or as a threat?" Alara studied him for a long moment, her violet eyes searching his face. "You are not alone in this, Jake. We will not force you to make this decision without full knowledge of its consequences. We will work together, step by step, to ensure that both our species benefit from this partnership." Jake let out a long breath, trying to calm the storm of thoughts racing through his mind. "I don't know if I can trust that. I don't know if I can trust anyone in this situation. Alara stepped closer, her voice quiet but firm. You can trust me, Jake. You can trust us. We are not asking you to betray your people. We are asking you to help us survive. And in doing so, we may create something that could benefit both our worlds. You will not be alone in this. We will stand by your side. Jake closed his eyes, the weight of her words settling deep within him. It felt as if the entire universe was pressing down on his shoulders, and he wasn't sure how much longer he could carry it. But as he looked at Alara, at the sincerity in her eyes, he realized something. This wasn't just about saving the Vralans. This was about something greater, about two species finding a way to coexist, to help each other thrive. I still don't know if I'm ready, Jake said quietly, his voice tinged with doubt. But I know that if I don't try, if I don't give it a chance, I might regret it for the rest of my life. Alara nodded, her expression softening into a smile. Then that is all we ask, Jake. A chance. And we will make sure you are not alone in this. Jake turned back toward the city, his eyes scanning the alien landscape. For the first time since he had arrived on Vralius, he felt a sense of clarity, an understanding that this decision, no matter how impossible, was one that he could no longer avoid. The future of two worlds hung in the balance, and it was a responsibility that only he could bear. He wasn't sure what the future would hold, but he knew one thing. He had made his choice, and he would do everything he could to ensure that the world he left behind and the world he was about to enter would both have a chance at survival. The days that followed were a blur of meetings, decisions, and quiet moments of reflection for Jake. He had agreed to help the Vralans, but the weight of that decision still sat heavily on his shoulders. He wasn't sure what to expect next, but the path ahead seemed more complicated by the hour. His connection with Alara deepened as the days passed. She remained by his side, guiding him through the complexities of Vralian culture and the science behind their race's decline. Every conversation with her seemed to pull him further into their world, making it harder to remember the life he had left behind on Earth. As they met with more Vralian leaders, Jake began to learn more about the details of the union they proposed. It wasn't just about genetic compatibility, as Alara had told him. It was about creating a new future for the Vralian race, one that would combine human resilience with their advanced technology and intellect. The Vralans believed that by combining their strengths, they could overcome the limitations of their biology and begin to grow their population once again. Jake had never thought much about genetics, let alone the idea of his own genetic material being used to create new life. But the more he heard about the Vralian plight, the more he began to understand the desperation that drove them. He had seen the way they lived, how their once thriving cities were now quieter, with fewer people walking their streets. It was a beautiful world, but it was a world on the edge of collapse. The nights were the hardest. Jake would lie awake in his quarters, staring at the ceiling, unable to escape the thoughts swirling in his mind. The responsibility felt endless, and there were moments when he questioned whether he had made the right choice. Was he truly capable of fulfilling the Vralians' hopes? Was he the one to carry the future of two species on his shoulders? It was in one of these moments of uncertainty that Alara came to visit him. She was different now, less distant, more approachable. The hard, commanding officer he had first met seemed to have softened in his presence. She knocked gently on his door before entering, her expression calm. "You're still awake," she said softly, her eyes reflecting a sense of understanding. Jake nodded, sitting up in bed. "I can't sleep. There's too much going on in my head." Alara walked over to the small seating area near the window, sitting down across from him. "You're not the only one. We've all been waiting for this moment, but it's harder than we thought." Jake raised an eyebrow. What do you mean? Elira's gaze turned distant, her thoughts clearly far away. We've watched you, your people, carefully for centuries. We've seen how humanity thrives in the face of adversity. We've seen the strength in your spirit, but even we didn't know how much it would cost to reach this point. Jake frowned. What do you mean by cost? What do you mean by we didn't know? Elira's eyes met his, filled with a quiet sadness. It's not just about your genetics, Jake. It's about the bond we are asking you to form. The bond between your species and ours. It's not something we can predict. The connection we share will be new. We've never attempted anything like this before, and neither have you. Jake felt the air in the room grow heavier. You're saying there's more to it than just the science? Elira nodded. Yes, there's a deeper connection that will form, a bond that goes beyond biology. You and the Vralian women will share something powerful, something that could change everything, but it will not be easy. It will challenge both of us in ways we cannot yet understand. Jake let her words sink in. He had known that his decision wasn't just about genetics, but hearing Elira put it into those terms made it feel even more real. The future he was stepping into was full of unknowns, full of risks he had never considered. And yet, there was no turning back now. He had already agreed to help, and he couldn't just walk away from that responsibility. I didn't sign up for this, Jake said quietly, his voice tinged with frustration. I never wanted to be part of something so complicated. Elira's gaze softened, and she leaned forward slightly. None of us did, Jake. But sometimes, the choices we make are not the ones we want. They're the ones we have to make. The Vralins need you, and in many ways, you need us too. Jake ran a hand through his hair, staring at the floor as if trying to piece everything together. But what happens if it doesn't work? What if our connection doesn't produce the results you're hoping for? Elira was silent for a moment, choosing her words carefully. If it doesn't work, we will try again. We have no other choice. Our people are fading, Jake. We cannot survive without this, but I believe it will work. I believe in you, and I believe that together we can create a new future for both of our species. The quiet conviction in her voice made Jake feel something he hadn't felt in days, a sense of hope. It wasn't much, but it was enough to keep him going. For the first time, he felt as if the weight of the decision was something he could bear, as long as he wasn't alone. I still don't know if I can do this, Jake admitted. But I'll try. I'll try for you and for your people. Elira smiled faintly, a small but genuine smile. That's all we can ask for. Just give us a chance, Jake. A chance to build something better. Together. Jake nodded slowly, the pressure in his chest easing ever so slightly. There was still so much unknown, so much to figure out, but at least now he wasn't facing it alone. Elira was right. This was a decision he had made, and now he would have to live with it. Whatever came next, he would face it with the strength he had always relied on. The strength of humanity. The day had come. Jake stood before the large assembly hall, his heart pounding in his chest. The decision had been made. There was no turning back. He had agreed to help the Vralins, to unite, their race with humanity's to give them a chance at survival. But as the doors to the hall slowly opened, Jake felt the weight of that choice heavier than ever. The room was filled with Vralian leaders, their faces a mix of hope and uncertainty. Elira stood at the front, her violet eyes shining with the intensity of 1,000 emotions, though she remained calm on the surface. Elira was nearby, standing with a quiet confidence, as if she too had come to terms with what was happening. Jake wasn't sure if he could ever fully accept what was about to unfold, but he had come to understand that he wasn't alone in this. The Vralins had placed their trust in him, and he had placed his trust in them. The moment the doors closed behind him, Alara stepped forward, her voice firm but warm. "Mr. Sullivan, thank you for your courage, for choosing to help us at this critical time." Jake gave a small nod, unable to speak at first. His throat was tight with emotions he hadn't yet fully processed. The enormity of what was about to happen felt almost surreal. Here he was, standing in front of the leaders of a dying race, ready to do something that could change the course of history for both their worlds. Alara's gaze softened. "We will move forward together, but understand this. What happens next will not be easy. It will test both of us in ways we cannot predict. There are no guarantees." Jake swallowed hard. "I know, but I believe it's the right thing. I've made my choice, and I'll stand by it. I may not fully understand what this means, but I know that we need to give this a chance." Alara stepped forward then, her eyes filled with understanding. "You're not alone in this, Jake. We will be with you every step of the way." With that, Alara nodded, signaling for the assembly to begin. The atmosphere in the room was charged with anticipation as everyone waited for the next step. Jake wasn't sure what exactly would happen, but he knew that this was the moment everything would change. The future of the Vralian race, of humanity, depended on the bond that was about to be formed. As the process began, Jake felt a strange sense of calm wash over him. The room seemed to blur as his mind focused on the task at hand. Alara and Elira were by his side, guiding him, preparing him for what was to come. The Vralian women were calm, their faces serene, as if they had long known what had to be done. Jake couldn't help but feel a deep sense of connection to them, to this world, despite the uncertainty, despite the fear that still lingered in his chest. He knew this was his purpose now. The ceremony was unlike anything he could have imagined. There were no loud rituals, no grand speeches. It was quiet, intimate, and filled with a deep, almost sacred energy. The Vralans were not just seeking to combine their genetics with his, they were seeking something deeper, something that went beyond science and biology. They were creating a new future, a new bond between their species and his. The process was slow at first. Jake could feel the connection forming, but it was nothing like he had expected. It wasn't painful, but it was overwhelming in a way he couldn't fully describe. It was as if his very being was being stretched, reshaped, connected to something far greater than himself. Alara stood close by, her presence grounding him as the energy between them deepened. Jake's mind swirled with strange visions, flashes of the future, of human and Vralian children, of a new generation that would carry the best of both worlds. It was a glimpse of what could be, a future that had once seemed impossible, but now it felt real, tangible, something within his reach. At some point, time seemed to slow, and the room around him faded. The only thing he could feel was the pulse of energy between him and the Vralian women, a deep, unspoken bond that went beyond mere physical connection. It was something spiritual, something that would tie their worlds together forever. When the ceremony finally ended, Jake felt both exhausted and exhilarated. He collapsed into a chair, his body trembling, slightly from the intensity of the experience. Alara was at his side in an instant, her hand on his shoulder. "You've done it," she said quietly. "We've done it. This is the first step in creating the future." Jake looked up at her, his breath still coming in short bursts. I didn't expect it to feel like this. It's like I've become part of something so much bigger than myself." Alara smiled gently. "You have, and now, our species will survive, thanks to your courage, your strength, and your willingness to take that first step." Jake's heart swelled with a mixture of pride and fear. The road ahead was still uncertain, and he knew there would be challenges, many challenges. But for the first time since he had arrived on Vralius, he felt a sense of hope. This bond, this connection, was not just the beginning of something for the Vralans. It was the beginning of something for humanity as well. "We've created a future," Jake said softly, almost to himself. Alara nodded, her eyes full of determination. "Yes, together we have." As Jake stood to leave the assembly hall, he looked back at the faces of the Vralian leaders, the women who had placed their faith in him. The bond between their worlds had been forged, and now it was up to both species to make it work. He didn't know exactly what that would look like, but he knew one thing for sure. This was just the beginning. The journey ahead would be long and uncertain, but Jake was ready to face whatever came next with the strength of humanity and the Vralans behind him.